Edie McClurg is a film and TV actress, inarguably best known for playing the secretary of the high school in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Sadly, Edie has begun suffering from dementia over the past few years. It also appears she may have been the victim of elder abuse at the hands of a strange man who finagled his way into her life. Join Factsverse as we explore how Edie McClurg's battle with dementia just got worse. Edie McClurg isn't doing too great. Edie McClurg is an actress most people will recognize even if they don't know her by name. The most iconic role of her career was as the secretary in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. She's now 77 and not in any state to continue performing. For the past several years, Edie has been stricken by a worsening case of dementia. Edie hasn't worked since around 2019, with her last work being in a film called Eyes Upon Waking, which is just seeing release this year. Most of her last acting work consisted of voiceover roles. Though Edie certainly isn't the biggest star who ever walked the planet, she's managed to build up quite the nest for herself over the course of her career. She's said to be worth around $2 million. As Edie's dementia worsens in her old age, her family is becoming increasingly concerned about this fortune. In 2019, when the dementia began to significantly worsen, Edie's family successfully filed for conservatorship. Beyond the worsening dementia itself, another part of the reason Edie's family filed for the conservatorship was a new man who had recently showed up in her life. Around the time that her dementia became a problem, a man named Michael L. Ramos came into her life. It's unclear exactly how they met. However, after an undisclosed period of time, they began living together. Michael Ramos moving into Edie's house confused the family of the actress very much, and for good reason. They weren't romantically involved, and it didn't seem as if Edie was in any state to reciprocate the man's supposed friendship. The family had also gotten the idea that Michael may have been soliciting Edie to change the details of her will. Edie's family was granted a conservatorship in 2019. When both Edie's worsening dementia and the strange new man in her life were taken into consideration, the judge had no problem granting Edie's family the conservatorship they were seeking. But the judge made a caveat that Michael L. Ramos would be able to continue living in the residence with Edie so long as no obvious problems arose. The judge's reasoning was that Michael might be providing some companionship that would be sorely missed otherwise. Still, the conservatorship made it so that Michael would have a harder time trying to mess with Edie's will, if that was what he was trying to do. Sadly, this isn't the end of the story. As Michael L. Ramos continued living with Edie McClurg, he also continued trying to pry deeper into her life. Although their relationship never appeared romantic, Michael apparently began planning a marriage soon after the conservatorship was announced. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to piece together that this was likely Michael's scheme to get around the boundaries of the conservatorship and trying to get his paws on Edie's $2 million fortune. The actress's family sprung into action once again to ensure the marriage never occurred. Just recently, in the summer of 2022, her family filed for a restraining order against the man, and this was just granted. Now it seems Edie McClurg will be free from the elder-abusing clutches of Michael Ramos once and for all. Before we tell you more, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Edie's family now has a restraining order against Michael. When Edie McClurg's family took steps to initiate their conservatorship in 2019, they had little problem due to the fact that Edie's mental state was obviously deteriorating at a significant degree. The family was able to use results from numerous neurological tests to show that the Edie everyone used to know and love was no longer there, and that she was in need of serious long-term care. Given this context, it seems pretty unlikely that Edie would have been in much of a state to make a new friend. Still, something about Michael L. Ramos seems to have won over the courts for the time being in 2019. He was allowed to continue living with her even after the conservatorship was put into place, and some think the man may have sexually assaulted the actress during that time. When Edie's family came back to court to get a restraining order against Michael, they did so with a good deal of cause. It seems one of Edie's caregivers has claimed Michael sexually assaulted her on numerous occasions. If he is a sexual abuser, it stands to reason he may have been taking advantage of the senile Edie McClurg at times when they were the only two at the residence. These allegations of sexual assault certainly played a big part in the judge granting the restraining order against Michael. Michael is apparently 72 years old, making him only a handful of years younger than Edie, but it seems his mental faculties are much more intact. Even so, Edie's family suggests the man needs help. Now that the restraining order has been granted, he will no longer be able to plot his marriage to Edie. It seems he had gotten pretty far in his plans to marry the aging actress, even deciding on a time and a place they were going to tie the knot. Of course, it's questionable how much, if any, Edie had to say about any of this. It's also important to note that Michael Ramos is unemployed. Edie McClurg's life and career. Edie was born in Kansas City in 1945 and began performing at age 5 with a dance troupe called Kansas City Rhythm Kids. This troupe came into some controversy during the time Edie was working with them, when the troupe's instructor was caught carrying on a romantic relationship with one of its teenage members. As an adult, Edie focused her attention on the radio before finding success in film and on television several years later. She got a degree in speech education at the University of Missouri and began working with NPR. Around this same time, she also began exercising her comedy skills working with the Groundlings. Edie's comedic talents led her to make some notable appearances on late-night comedy shows like The David Letterman Show and The Richard Pryor Show. In 1976, she made her first appearance on the big screen thanks to her performance in Brian De Palma's Carrie. In 1986, when Edie was already into her 40s, she received her most iconic role. That was the role of school secretary Grace in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, written and directed by John Hughes. Edie worked with John again the following year in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and she continued working with him via the films She's Having a Baby and Curly Sue. Other notable films she appeared in during the 80s and 90s include the cult classic Eating Raoul, as well as Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers. Into the 2000s, Edie was just as reliable of a performer as ever. In 2003, she played a supporting part in the comedic bomb Dickie Roberts' Former Child Star. The film was also notable for featuring a plethora of real-life former child stars. Edie began transitioning to significantly more voiceover roles during the new millennium, and they started to dwarf her live-action roles on her resume. Some of the many films she's provided voice work on include The Little Mermaid, A Bug's Life, Cars, and Wreck-It Ralph. The years leading to her diagnosis. While Edie has performed numerous memorable voiceover roles for theatrical releases, her voiceover work on television is even more prolific. From her numerous voiceover roles to her occasional live-action appearances, Edie was having no trouble finding work in the years leading up to her diagnosis. Sadly, her worsening mental state has made it unlikely that she'll ever return to her acting work in any capacity. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite memory of Edie McClurg? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.